Frankie. Hi there, and welcome to this special edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is made by fans for fans, where the content is free. And as I said, it's a very special edition. It's a Friday night show. We're doing the preview for the Aberdeen game over the weekend. Normally we don't get out on a Friday night, but we're free, and it means we can have a beer. So we'll look at the Aberdeen game and a couple of other things. If it's your first time joining us, we would ask you to subscribe and put us out there on social media. Let everyone know that we're there. We have over 3,500 subscribers now. So thanks to everyone. It's a very special edition. It's a Friday night. We normally do the Sunday night show, which is available on a variety of platforms, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Catchbox, Stitcher, and Spotify. But tonight we've taken the cameras are on and we can see one another. And it's all a bit weird and a bit new. And I'm joined by David Wren. David, how are you?
Good. I'm not as nervous as you, obviously. We discussed off air. Colin's a bit self-conscious. He's getting a bit older.
That's it.
I'm the prime of my life, so.
You look it, to be fair. So it's Friday night. What are you drinking? I'm on the Estrella.
I've got some sort of wanky craft beer. I've had a nightmare.
You're saying I'm nervous?
No, jeez. No, I've got some craft beer that I'm not gonna insult the common man by trying to explain it.
What's it called?
I don't want to talk about it. I shouldn't have said it was a craft beer. I've got the beard now. I've got the craft beer.
You're ticking all the boxes, David.
It's next week.
Yeah, you're ticking all the boxes, as we said, but we'll not go into it. Is it not Hello Friday? Because we could call it Hello Friday for the purposes of the podcast.
It is called Hello Friday.
And you're regretting it?
A wee bit now that you brought it up. I didn't know that was going to be a topic of conversation. I get a real man's beer, like a Foster,
Can of Tennants.
Yeah.
So how's your week been? I believe you're now in East Lothian, so you're in Tier 2. You can get a pint and everything.
I know. As of next week, we can. I think Tuesday when it kicks in, so we can go for a meal and have a beer and go to a beer garden. Because it's good weather. It's good weather.
Aye, it's beer garden weather, to be fair.
I found it quite weird because for some reason I thought the pubs reopened in Tier 2, but it's not as.
Is it not just with a main meal?
Aye. So no, but good. I mean, I'm just hoping. I mean, I remember doing the podcast with you in March, the Sunday night, and it was before lockdown. And we were like, don't know what's going to happen. It feels like years ago now. So
for me, it feels like years ago, but also feels quite quick as well. You know what I mean? It's kind of flew in, but it's been a drag at the same time. It's all a bit strange. I'm in Tier 3, and I'm surrounded. I am locked in. Everywhere around me is Tier 4. So Linlithgow to the sort of east, Tier 4. Lanarkshire to the south and sort of west, Tier 4. Stirling to the north, Tier 4. So I am landlocked. I can't go anywhere, you know what I mean? And we're worried about everybody coming in to get their hair cut and all that kind of thing. So strange times. Anyway, with regards to tonight, I thought we would have a wee look at, obviously, the game on Sunday, David. Aberdeen come to Ibrox, big game. We've just had the internationals that I think we sort of looked at last week that none of us are really that bothered about here in Gersnet. Firstly, I thought we would talk about Claire White. It was announced this week that she's going to leave her role as the compliance officer. Now, she's been in the role for about 2 years. She's been involved in a number of high-profile incidents, especially surrounding Rangers. Stuart Robertson was quite critical of her a couple of years ago, the whole trial by sports scene kind of thing. So I was kind of looking for your views on that. I mean, how do you view her time in the role? There's no doubt. When Stuart Robertson made his comments, I have to say I agreed with him. Rangers did seem to be getting refereed to a different standard in terms of how many, call-ups and retrospective action that was happening. So how did you view her sort of time in the post?
I think it's a difficult one for someone like her because she's not from a football background, so I think she's from a legal background, so she's coming into that. And the trial by sports scene thing is quite interesting because probably there was an aspect of that. I wouldn't say so much sports scene itself, but I think the reaction to a lot of things in the media and the way that can be built up, and it's not just up here, it's down south as well. It's everywhere in the world. when anything happens in a football game, it's blown up to be something completely beyond what it really is. And yeah, I mean, for someone like, I don't know if she's got an interest in football, if she is, a football fan or not, it doesn't matter. She was brought in to do a job, and she was always going. I mean, that is the sort of job where no matter who you are, you're on it, hiding to nothing. And if it's true that they're not looking to replace her, that would not surprise me, because what is the point in that job? It's just an SFA sort of scapegoat almost. It's someone that will take the blame for making decisions like that when, really it's. I don't know if anything against retrospective action, but in a few cases over the past couple of years, I think it's gone against a few clubs, and not just Rangers. I think there's been a few that have been the victim of it. I would have to really look back to see, but we're not the only ones, and I won't remember her. Actually, when I saw the agenda, the first time I'd ever seen her, actually what she looked like when I looked her up, just after I saw the agenda. So,
yeah,
she wouldn't leave a lasting, memory for me. I mean, it's the more interesting aspect of it for me is the fact that they're not potentially looking at, well, if we're led to believe they might not look at replacing her. So what that means then for, the game in retrospective action, does it mean that the SFL then look at bringing something like VAR in? Maybe not anytime soon, but it would certainly help. It would take away quite a lot of the grey areas with these sort of things.
That's the sort of point, I was going to make. She is a kind of version of VAR, isn't she? She's someone that comes in and sort of corrects decisions that, people think that the referee got wrong. However, one thing I will say about her sort of time in post is, I think you've maybe got a point about her being on to hiding to nothing. I think, people can trace connections between her and her firm that she worked for in Celtic and Peter Law and all that kind of thing. And then, so whether there's any substance in the sort of feeling that she was biased in her dealings with Rangers and Celtic, that's up for debate. What it does do is it gives ground for supporters, because supporters will look for stuff like that. And I certainly think Scott Brown got away with a few things that other players didn't. I think Rangers got a disproportionate amount of action taken against them during her time, in my opinion. And it did become a wee bit of a circus, and I think that's why Stuart Robertson felt the need to comment. So, I mean, on that, do we need, given the last 2 years, I don't think her appointment, whether you want to blame her or not, for the purposes of fairness, we'll not sort of accuse her of being, biased one way or the other. But because there's been so many issues over the last couple of years, David, do we need someone like that? Is it, if we can't afford VAR and we're not going to have a compliance officer, is it then just a case of, like, let the referee the game and his decision is final?
Yeah, I mean, how many times in a season do we realistically need that retrospective action and someone looking at things beyond the end of the game? I genuinely can't think of anything off the top of my head. You maybe have to remind me of a couple of incidents that have been brought back, but I mean, certainly in this season, I can't think of any that have been.
No, she has been quite conspicuously quiet this year, which has maybe been in the build-up to this announcement today.
Yeah, I think the problem in this country in terms of football is, no matter where you're from, what background you're from, what the situation is, there's always going to be fans from both clubs probably that look for that link. And if there's a link between, the compliance officer in Rangers or the compliance officer in Celtic, there's always going to be a bit of heat there. It's just it's the nature of the mentality, I think, in Scotland in terms of the old firm. So I don't think it'll have been a 2 years that Sheila particularly enjoyed as a job. She maybe took it in good faith and then quickly regretted the decision. I would have. I wouldn't thank you for that job. That just sounds horrendous, I think.
So do you think the best way forward now is just let the referees make the final call and then we move on after it?
I would tend to say that just because, but then the problem is with this announcement, we've not had any controversy recently in terms of this sort of thing. And the only, I know we're going to come on to Jordan Jones and Edmondson, but it's been more things like that out with the actual games that the controversies arised.
I think you raise a good point, and you know what I think the main factor is in that there's no supporters on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has taken a lot of heat out of some of the refereeing decisions. I really do, because I've seen incidents, particularly involving Morelos, just wee niggly things that you think if there was a supporters in there, especially away from home at grounds like Pittodrie and Celtic Park, you know, the home supporter are going to react, and then that makes the referee think, do I do something? And if he doesn't do something, it makes them analyse it in Sports Scene and Sky Sports News, and then Claire White thinks, well, I've got to get involved here, I've got to take action. But because there's not been any supporters in there, I think that it's defused the whole thing. It really came home at the game at Celtic Park for me when we beat them 2-0 there. 70 minutes before the first yellow card. You know what I mean? I think that tells you everything, that there is a certain amount of heat getting taken out of the games with no supporters being in there.
No, I completely agree. You know, it's one of the things, I mean, if you're a referee turning up at Ibrox on a normal Saturday, you know, before this, and the first fill you give against Rangers, you get 50,000 people screaming at you, then it's probably going to give you, you know, reason to think about the next decision you're going to make. Whereas maybe now they'll just, you know, given, I don't want to say there was any reason why they wouldn't before, but I think if you've got fans screaming at you in that atmosphere at any Old Firm game, really, whether it's between the two teams or any game of theirs, I think that's got to have an impact on the way you can perform as a referee. So I completely agree. I think this season, the fact there's been no fans there, you know, there's been a lot of talk about how it's affected the Rangers players, but in terms of referees, I mean, we've had a lot of penalties this season, and maybe that's just because there's not. Do you know? I don't know if that plays a part as well. It's just.
I also think it affects. I think it affects the decision making of players as well. You know what I mean? I think if you've got 50,000 fans telling you to do something, you've more chance you'll do it. But if they're not there, you'll maybe evaluate that thing differently. And I think in every part of the game, from the referee to the players to the coaching and all that kind of stuff, you can see that no fans being in there does make a difference, I think.
Well, definitely. And I think, I mean, we've spoken about it so many times, but there's no doubt, I mean, going to games, having like worked in the media and gone to games as a reporter, you know, for 6 years, a lot of games that I would go to when I was working would be like analysing the game to write reports about the game, you know, afterwards. So even when I was going to Ibrox as a fan, you know, it was quite difficult to get out of that mindset. So I would generally watch the game, but within 2 or 3 minutes, you know, you would get guys that were going off their heads. And listen, I have nothing against that. I think you pay your money, and as long as you're not completely out of order and, you know, going beyond the line, you know, you're allowed to do what you like. But there's no doubt that some people were getting more frustrated, and I can understand. I mean, see guys like yourself and like guys like my dad who went and watched Loudrup and Gascoigne, and then you're turning up on Saturday and you're seeing Kevin Kyle up front. I understand it, and I think there's been a lot of blowback from that era, because I mean, I grew up watching Rowan De Boer and Arveladze, watched 3 in a row under Walter Smith, and then had a season ticket in the 3rd division. So I get it as well, and I can see why there's probably a heightened anxiety at Ibrox now among fans, because it's like that. It's just frustration, and we all feel it. Some people just present it in different ways, and I think, but that it's obvious that not being there has had an impact on the players, because the way they play. I mean, that 8-0 against Hamilton, that was just frightening. And pretty much every game at Ibrox this season, bar a couple, have been like that. Have been pretty comfortable, and the players have just looked like they're playing with a complete freedom. It's like a training game, which for us is good because we have the best players in the league, the best squad in the league, in my opinion.
Other news this week, David, was the stuff around Jordan Jones and Edmondson. You know, 7-game ban announced. Now, when you trawl around sort of social media and looking at some of the reaction of supporters, I don't see much sympathy there for Jones and Edmondson. I think most supporters were pretty accepting of the 7-game ban. Gerrard today, I quite liked how Stevie Gerrard handled it today, because he took on that sort of human aspect to the whole thing, saying almost as if, they've done it, they've made a mistake, I've sat them down, I asked for an explanation, I like what they had to say, we now need to bury this, let the boys, take their punishment, and let's get them to a place where they're ready to play again. But do you think when they do come to play again, that'll be at Ibrox or someone else? Because I think for Jordan Jones especially, he really is drinking in the sort of last chance saloon.
Yeah, I can't see him playing again, really. I think he's not... I mean, Jones isn't going to be first name the team sheet. The game he started this season was at Fir Park, and it was I think it was off the back of a European tie. If it wasn't, then sorry, but there's certainly a bit of rotation going on there, and he got in. But he's not been in the squad for so long. There was obviously a reason behind that, and obviously part of it was what he did at Ibrox against Celtic last season. Guy's 26. He's a year younger than me.
Yeah, aye.
He's got... I mean, that's... for me, that's... it's too old to be making decisions like that when you're a professional footballer. Because how many of us would give, left leg to be in the position he's in? A bit of a slap in the face to people like us that go and pay our money every week. Even now, buying bloody Rangers TV and all that kind of stuff. So
I think it's actually worse now when you consider season ticket holders are paying for games and they're not going to get access. That's a big commitment to supporters, and all you're asking for your players is just to toe the line. So I think it's even worse this year.
No, I think so. And for me, it's difficult because he hasn't been in. So then for him to come back, he needed to get his head down and just sort himself out. And unfortunately, to do something like that in the public sphere, which actually, we've spoken about this again in the podcast, I've got no sympathy. We spoke about it actually when I think we were on when just after the Aberdeen thing and the Celtic player at the time. And at that time, I said I had no sympathy for them. So it makes just them being Rangers players makes me even more, pissed off about it, because we've got a pretty good record in terms of this sort of response to COVID-19. So for them to do something as stupid as that, I can't see a way back for Jones. Edmondson, I'm not a massive fan anyway. I think he's okay, but I think he's probably Hibs, Aberdeen level, perhaps. I don't think he's really Rangers level. If you think Katic is due to come back, maybe in the next few months, then that would give you Katic, Balogun, Hollander, Goldson. Is he better than any of them? I don't think so. So I think both of them are. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't either leave, permanently in January or go on loan or something, because I just can't see the way back. Now, especially for it to be fringe players, if it'd been someone that played week in, week out, then you could maybe have said, well, he's performed, a mistake. These guys are, fringe players who most of their energy should be fixed on getting in the team, not, going to illegal parties.
Whose parties?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus.
Well, my boy's 15 and he's going to a gaff, you know what I mean? So what's that? Jordan Jones is 11 years older and he's still doing the same thing. Aye, it is. It's poor. I'm like you. I think Jones has pushed too far on this, and it's a bit of a shame because that goal at Motherwell, there was wee signs that he'd maybe turned a corner and was maybe going to make a fist at it in terms of trying to save his Rangers career, because I think there was already a feeling that he was on the way out. And after that day at Motherwell, you thought, oh, wee chance here. And the minute I read that, that he'd been involved in that, I was just like, oh, that's him. I can't see any way back. I think it will take a superhuman effort for him to get back in. Edmondson, I hear what you're saying in terms of being Rangers class, but I think he's a good squad player, and I think there could be room for him in that capacity, but again, I think he will need to show a lot. I mean, they couldn't have done it in the worst time, like 6-7 weeks before a transfer window opens up. It's very, very easy to get them moved on. As your cat came into the room.
Yeah, it's the dog. She's just in a sniff about. That's the problem with the camera's been on, you see. Yeah, the outtakes.
In terms of this, I mean, 7 games was quite severe based on, some of the other punishments that went out. You think about the Aberdeen 8 and Bolingoli. I mean, Bolingoli went to another country, never let on, and actually played and could have really, infected a few people. Is there consistency there, or are you not bothered with that? Or do you think there's a line being sort of drawn today and saying anyone who does it from here on in, this is a sort of level of punishment you could be looking at?
I would increase it as time went on. I think it's actually not a bad way of doing it because, whatever they got, I can't remember, I read it yesterday, but, what they got, and then that's like, how many months ago was that now? Was that August? So
yeah, aye.
A few months ago. So then for them to do it 3 months later, 4 months later, I think you've just got to take your medicine. I've got no complaints about the ban. I think it's fine. I think you've got to show that you're taking it seriously, and you saw that with the Rangers statement last night as well. I mean, there was no complaints at all there. So I don't really get involved in those sort of conspiracy theory type things where you're talking about, but what about today? There's nothing worse. So, no complaints about that. And I think you've got to make examples of them, and I think that's what they've done there.
Now on to the game on Sunday, David. Aberdeen at Ibrox. Obviously, we beat them the first game of the season at Pittodrie. It was a fairly odd experience, if I'm honest, for myself. Me and my boys sat and watched it in the living room, and normally games at Pittodrie are quite tense and you're nervous, and it just didn't feel like that day. And again, that's partly because of the no supporter thing. But they've kicked on since then. They genuinely have. Sorry, I got a wee bit of beer burp there. How rude. So they've kind of kicked on a wee bit. They're on a good run of form. In terms of the form table, they're sitting second behind us. Celtic are sitting in third. I think out the last 6 games, they've won 4 and drawn 2. Looking at Steven Gerrard today in his press conference, he described it as a tough challenge. Now, again, getting into the conspiracy theory side of thing, given that, for some reason the Rangers game has been chosen to be televised and put to the Sunday, and Celtic are on the Saturday at 3 o'clock. So if they win at Easter Road, they close the gap on us a wee bit. So how important is it to get a good result, and how tough do you think a game it will be?
I think it'll be hard. It'll be like every other, Aberdeen game. I think they're always difficult. Can McCrory play on Sunday?
No.
Well, that's a positive for us. So I think he's been doing well. But you look at the team. I'm just looking at who played against Hibs last time out. Considine, Ash Taylor, decent centre halves. Then you've got Lewis Ferguson, obviously. You've got the boy Wright, who's doing well. Cosgrove's obviously back. Devlin, they've got Devlin in the bench. McGinn on the bench for the last game. I think they've got a good squad this season, and I think they'll pose a threat. But I'm pretty confident that we can beat anyone at the moment. Really, I think the way we're playing, we're in good shape, and there's really no games that are coming up, touch wood, that I'm concerned about. But I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great way to come back off what has been a pretty positive, international break, just in terms of the full. I know we're not going to cover all ground, but in terms of the Scotland thing and all that, it's been a relatively positive time in the country. So for us to come back to a big game like this is good. It wouldn't have been as good if we were coming back to, Hamilton at home or Livingston at home. So to come back to a big game, it's maybe what the players need, and we'll be fresh. I mean, majority of our squad will be fresh, I think. So looking forward to it. But I think it will pose a threat. The fact McCrory's not playing as good for us, because I think he's been he's done well for them so far. But they've still got a lot of threats in there, Ferguson and Cosgrove being the main ones. So, yeah, no, looking forward to the game.
In terms of what you're saying there, we'll be fresh. Now, the Rangers have 11 players coming back from international duty. I've got the list of them here. Morelos, Borna Barisic, Kamara, Joe Aribo and Balogun, Stephen Davis, who obviously was away with Northern Ireland, and I would be surprised to see him on Sunday, given, he had to pull out the squad for personal reasons. Hadji was away with the under-21s, John McLaughlin and Ryan Jack were away with Scotland. So, and Zungu was away with South Africa, and according to Gerrard today, he's picked up a knock. Hollander was away, and all of them got minutes, in Stephen Davis's case, he played the 120 minutes in that game on I think it was Wednesday night. So do you think this will affect Gerrard's decision making in terms of the starting 11? For example, Eaton wasn't their way, Roof wasn't their way, Ken. Are you pretty much looking at those three and thinking, well, that's probably your starting three because those will be the freshest?
Yeah, potentially. I think. Well, I would be surprised if Morelos didn't start on Sunday, just given the game and the magnitude. And he quite likes playing against Aberdeen. But I think, well, when you look at our midfield three, the likelihood is that Jack and Kamara will probably play because Davis won't be available. So I don't know if it will affect his decision making so much because most of them would have been back on Thursday or Friday. So that's quite a lot of time for a Sunday game. Ordinarily you'd be coming back from Portugal or Holland or where else have we been this season? Belgium. So was it Belgium? Standard Liège.
Yeah.
So ordinarily we'd be coming back in transit on a Thursday night from their games to play on a Sunday. So I'd be surprised if it had a major impact. For Sunday, I would look to play Morelos if possible. So I think he suits that. He's the most physical of the strikers in terms of competing with Considine and Ash Taylor at the back for Aberdeen. So I'd like to see him play. I think you're likely to see Kent. And the right hand side for me has been one of the most difficult positions for us, to actually get right. But perhaps Aribo will play there. Was Aribo away as well?
He was, yeah.
But perhaps
they provided an update on the Rangers website today, and pretty much everyone got minutes here or there. I think Zungu, I would be surprised to see him at all. Apparently he's got a knock in his knee. I slightly disagree with you. I think, Morelos has done a bit of travelling, and I just wonder if Rangers will want to avoid getting into that physical battle that Morelos brings. I wonder if they'll maybe go a different route, and I think Roof just looks like he's ready to kick on. He looks. I think we've signed a really good player there, and I hope I'm right because there are signs there that we've got a good one. So we'll see on Sunday. But I think the amount of travelling that he's done, I think Morelos, I think he might start on the bench. On to Aberdeen now, as we said earlier on, they're on a decent run of form. David, the personnel, as we said earlier on, is going to be slightly different. There's no Ross McCrory, obviously, tomorrow, but as you said, Lewis Ferguson will be there. But I sort of wanted to focus on Sam Cosgrove because he wasn't there in the first game. And Ryan Jack made a sort of an interesting comment today about, that the Aberdeen would pose threats at set pieces and stuff like that. And he would certainly come into that bracket. So do you think he brings a sort of different dimension to the sort of Aberdeen team we faced on the first day of the season, and a different threat and possibly a greater threat?
I think along with Kevin Nisbet, you'd probably say he was, one of the best strikers in the league outside of the Old Firm. So he's going to pose a threat. He has done in the past against us. He scored goals, more at Pittodrie than Ibrox, but he's a good player. He's a good striker, handful. But Goldson and Balogun, Goldson and Hollander have dealt with, other big strikers this season and dealt with them well. So I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know what you think about this, but based on, Balogun played the last game, but that performance from Hollander in Portugal, I just wonder if that would be playing on Gerrard's mind now, in terms of that one game, considering the mistakes he made in the game. I don't know if that will affect his thought process for the rest of the season in terms of who partners Goldson.
It might, yeah. I think you could be onto something. I also think Balogun physically looks like he would be more able to handle someone like Cosgrove. I'm like you. I've got a feeling Balogun might start on Sunday. Given that it's Cosgrove that we're facing, I suppose time will tell. But yeah, I think you might have a point. I mean, I think Hollander's been outstanding this season. I have to say that. And if 9 times out of 10, if you were to offer me the two, I would probably go with Hollander most times. Aye, but he did kind of get himself in a bit of a flap in that game against Benfica. I think Cosgrove maybe represents the type of striker that he's maybe not done so well against. Lyndon Dykes gave Hollander a hard time, Livy a couple of times. So yeah, I have a feeling he'll go with Balogun, but I suppose we'll find out. Conscious of time, David, and Friday night, and we all want to get back to what we do on a Friday night. So I'll just ask you, how do you feel about Sunday? Do you think it'll be a good result, and do you think we'll get the win?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be 2-0. That's what I'll go for.
2-0. So we're keeping the no conceding thing going then.
Yeah, I think so. Can't see us conceding again. Touch wood, but no, I'm confident. I'm confident in most games now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to Rangers being back in action. That'll be good. Just before we go off air, Colin, we've been meaning to say this for weeks, and I don't think we have. No, it's not a joke. But every single week we post the podcast on social media.
I know where you're going with this, and it's long overdue.
And every single week, a certain Dave Christie gets in touch and tells us how much he's enjoying it. So just publicly and on the podcast, I hope he doesn't blush too much, but just a thank you to him from, I think, everyone at Gersnet for his support and the fact that every week, without fail, I think we all wait for it every Monday morning. So, I thought I'd say that.
Sorry, on you go.
No, just before we go off air, I think I thought I'd say that. But same goes for everyone that gets in touch, and we do appreciate it. And this is obviously quite a big night for us in terms of changes and things like that. So I think just thanks to everyone that's been listening over the past year or 2 years. Much appreciated.
Yeah, as you say, David, it's long overdue. I know we talked about it on the WhatsApp for about the past 3 or 4 weeks to sort of give him a mention, and we've just, one thing or another, we keep on forgetting. So yeah, absolutely. Every Monday, and it's normally around the same time. He must have a routine. Like 9 o'clock he sticks the podcast on, and then at 10 o'clock he's on to Twitter thanking us for it. It's remarkable loyalty, and as David said there, it's much appreciated. Should point out tonight as well, before we go, that the annual reporting accounts, Rangers have released their annual reporting accounts tonight, and there's a thing on the website and a bit of a blurb from Park around what's happening. We'll look at that more on Sunday night. David is hosting on Sunday night, so we'll have a wee look at that on Sunday night and go into more detail. It came out just a wee bit too quick for us to comment more here, so we'll talk about that on Sunday. So going on to Sunday, we've got the game against Aberdeen on Sunday night. There'll be the live show. David's hosting, and it's myself and Stevie Clifford from the Four Lads blog who will be joining us. We'll have a preview pod next week as well for the Benfica game, and then obviously we'll have the Sunday show again. The Friday show, we'll fit these in as and when we can, based on the schedule and what the fixtures look like. But we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you enjoy the new look and the bar that's below us. It all looks a bit Sky Sportsy. I feel like Richard Keys, and he's sitting there like Charlie Nicholas. So yeah, thanks for listening in, thanks for watching. Big thanks to David for giving up his Friday night, and a big thanks to Frankie for giving up his Friday night. He's in the background working all the mechanics to this stuff just now, so a big thanks to him. Join us on Sunday at 9:30 at the usual time. Subscribe if you can, and as I always say, in these sort of strange times, guys, obviously we've all went into our new tiers tonight. I'm in tier 3. David over there can go for a pint tomorrow with his main meal in tier 2. Wherever you are, be safe, look after yourself. Until the next time, bye for now.